School Board, that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Stafford County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you poll the board, please?
Ms. Egan.
Agreed.
Ms. Fallon.
Agreed.
Ms. Hazard.
Agree.
Ms. Healy.
Agree.
Mr. Hirons. Ms. Kidby.
Agree.
Madam Chair, it passes unanimously.
Thank you. If everybody would, well, first I would love to thank, for those of you who were here, the Wings String Quartet from Colonial Forge High School. It was beautiful. We could hear it in the back. I'm sorry, so I'm glad that you all got to hear it. We will be have our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance, and the conducting of the colors will be done by Cub Scout Pack and Boy Scout Troop 63. If you all will rise with me for a moment of silence, please.
Color guard, right face. Scout salute, hand over heart. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard, right face. Color guard, retreat.
Maybe I'd like to thank again Cub Scout and Boy Scout Troop 63. We truly enjoyed your leading us this evening. Moving on to 5.01, do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Moving on to awards this evening. What a wonderful night. I'd like to first recognize Sarah Crane, Coordinator Literacy Programs, for presentation of awards. Dr. Benson. Dr. Benson.
School Board members, Dr. Benson, I am pleased to present you with the finalists in Stafford County Schools Spelling Bee. These two students competed this weekend at the 11th Annual Freelance Star Regional Spelling Bee. First, would Rachel Staggers please come forward? Is she here? She was here. Oh, Rachel is a 4th grade student at Garrisonville Elementary School. Her winning word in the competition was plie, which she spelled correctly to break a tie for 2nd place. And we will, I'm sure, present her award later and congratulate her on her accomplishment. Next, would Cole Menard please come forward? Cole is an 8th grade student at Dixon Smith Middle School, and he won our division spelling bee by correctly spelling the word Bannock. Please join me in congratulating Cole on his accomplishments.
Congratulations. I know there's some of us up here who do not think that they are the best spellers, so congratulations. Next, I would like to recognize Joe Lewis, principal of Stafford High School, for a presentation of awards.
Madam Chairman, school board members, and Superintendent Benson, I am pleased to bring to your attention some of the outstanding student athletes from Stafford High School. First, would our gymnastics team and coaches please come forward? Please join me in congratulating this team on winning the conference championship, placing second in the region, and going on to take second in the State of Virginia High School League 5A competition. The team members are Madison Amos, Caitlin Carrick, Jenna Chang, Journey Dundee, Jennifer Hirata, Kayla Hubner, Naomi Jones, Delaney Kradovsky, Leah Morgan, Rachel Petto, Rachel Reisenfeld, Rachel Storm, a lot of Rachels, and Sabrina Searles. The coaches are Sean Thurston and Janet Barham. Congratulations. Next, would the members of our swim team and coaches who are in the audience please come forward? We had a number of our all-state medal winners in state competition. Our 200 medley relay team of Joe Stevens, Dylan Eichberg, Matt Hopkins, and Jacob Talkington earned fourth place honors, and then again the same teammates took sixth place in the 200 free relay. Dylan Eichberg earned fourth place honors in the 200 IM and seventh place in the 500 free. Michaela Sizemore won third place honors in the 500 free and seventh place in the 100 breaststroke. All these students earned the right to compete at the state level by winning or placing in the conference and regional competitions. Coaches are Ashley Goodwell and Amanda Husser. Congratulations to our swim team. Next, I would like to recognize our indoor track all-state athletes. Would you please come forward as I read your names? Taylor Tinsley earned fourth place in the high jump. Bridget Abatello placed fourth in the girls' 1,000 meter. And Duke Dionisio placed sixth place in the boys' 3,200 meter. These athletes are also earned the trip to state competition by winning or placing in the conference and regional competitions. Congratulations to them and to our coaches Pete Augram, Rachel Sherman, and Mark Repass. Lastly, before I leave, on Friday we have our annual talent show at Stafford High School. The students will be performing. They are really gifted. It starts at 7 o'clock. You are all invited. There will be some staff members who perhaps aren't as talented as the students that will be performing as well. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call Sarah Crane back up, and I believe that Rachel is here. So, Rachel, if you would come on up with Ms. Crane. Ms. Crane, could you give her introduction again of what she had to do?
Absolutely, I would love to. So Rachel is a fourth grade student from Garrisonville Elementary. Her winning word in our competition was plie, which she spelled correctly, and this broke the tie for second place. Please join me once again in congratulating Rachel.
Thank you. Good job. Next, I'd like to recognize Rosina Rains, from Assistant Principal at Colonial Forge High School, for presentation of awards. I was just going to say, my goodness, Mr. Jones. Ms. Rains, you have changed. Thanks. Thanks for being here, Mr. Jones. Awesome.
Ms. Rains is sick, and she asked if I would come tonight, and I said I am honored to be here. Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Benson, I am so pleased to be here this evening to recognize a number of outstanding Colonial Forge students. Would the wrestling team and coaches from Colonial Forge High School please come forward at this time? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the wrestling team and coaches on their amazing accomplishment of back-to-back state titles and winning their 6th state title overall. These students and their coaches are to be commended for their continued success and dedication in their sport. We had 3 students to win state titles in their weight classes. Please join me in recognizing Robert Winters at 220 pounds. Levi Engelman at 113 pounds. And Mark Garofalo at 132 pounds. We are also very, very excited to share with you that our own wrestling coach, Mr. Bill Swink, has been nominated for induction into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Coach Swink and the team. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. Congratulations. Next, would our gymnastics team and coaches please come forward? We are very excited to present the 6A state runner-uppers in gymnastics. Congratulations. Team members are Jesse Addo, who also placed 3rd in vault in the state. Taylor Casey, Tori Garrett, Lexi Holbrook, Sydney Nickens, Ariana Ponce, Haley Roman, Mackenzie Watterson, Sierra Arbach. Our coaches are Kim Thornburg and Lisa Rankin. Congratulations to these individuals. And finally, we would like for our track athletes and coaches to come forward. Actually, we do have one more. Congratulations to our track athletes who competed in state competition. These athletes are James Grandison in high hurdles and long jump. Zanab Bangora in the 55-meter dash. And Micaiah Upshaw in the triple jump. These students earned a trip to the state competition by winning or placing at the conference or regional level competitions. The coaches are Harry Booth, Eric Stoffer, Delvin Jackson, Jasmine Pugh, and Grant Garrett. Congratulations to each of you. And finally, would the swimmers who placed in the state competition from Colonial Forge please come forward? Please join me in congratulating Elise McIsaac, who placed fourth in the 100-meter breaststroke. And Megan Simpson, who placed 10th in the 100-meter fly. The coaches for these athletes are Megan McDonald and Michael Fox Moles. Congratulations to each of you. Thank you.
What a talented group that we have here tonight. So that will close our awards. We will move on to special presentations, beginning with 7.01, our new ERP system. I believe that will be Mr. Fulmer, Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
While Chris is getting the presentation up, I just wanted to say he will give you a lot more of the highlights, and we'll try to do this in 5 to 10 minutes. We're still on time and on budget. There's really not much of a variation, so we're progressing. Chris?
Always want to celebrate on time and on budget. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening. Like Lane said, I'm going to keep this brief. I only have a few slides. And then I'll open it up to questions. I'd rather give you guys time to ask questions if you have any. So we're going to jump in quickly. I'm going to do a recap of where we stand as far as what we've completed so far through phase one. We began the phase with business process consulting. They came in, evaluated our processes. They actually developed, I should have brought an example, a 3-ring binder about 4 inches thick for each one of these processes that you see up here that are basically desktop manuals. Specific to us on recommendations on how we should be processing step by step. And those were delivered in January with some slight revisions that need to be made on their end, but ultimately complete. I've also already presented to you guys the chart of accounts in early to mid-December. As you remember, we did a complete redesign of our budget account structure that we've used in the past. We did that so we could align our reporting needs with state and internal requirements. During the development of that, we reviewed with a panel of school bookkeepers, principals, departments, and as I mentioned in December, with the school board. A staggering number is we increased our budget codes from 3,700 to over 60,000. So we will have an infinite, I shouldn't say infinite, we have 60,000 options to record. And that number is going to increase slightly as we get all of our payroll budget codes in there, as right now we're on the bottom end of that. We didn't want to add accounts that we weren't going to use, so a few of those will increase as we get along through the HR and payroll process. Some of the conversions that have been completed, the vendor file, and Catherine Rowley, our ERP systems analyst, spent many hours cleaning up our vendor file that we were able to pull out of our legacy system. We had duplicate vendors. The way processes have been done with bookkeepers and purchasing staff is if we had a different remit-to address for a vendor, there wasn't a way to necessarily store that in our system, so we'd have to add a completely second vendor just to have the check mailed to a different location. So we were able to take that, consolidate it down into one vendor with multiple remit-to addresses in Munis. The GL history for FY14 and 15, and that includes original and final budgets, have been pulled into our live environment in Munis. And we have done our capital asset conversion file. We extracted our capital assets from our legacy system, and so far we've imported and tied those out. So we've tested them in our test environment, not our live environment. We won't actually pull those into our live environment until actually September of this year, once we finalize our FY16 capital asset numbers. And we've created a new template for our purchase order and checks for both budgeted and school activity funds. A preview of what's next in the coming months. In March, we will be doing lots of testing. We've built up a lot of the behind-the-scenes tables, and we're finalizing that in the next couple weeks, and we are going to keep testing and making sure everything that we've designed and processes that we've defined are working the way that we want, the bookkeepers want, principals, and the board, making sure we can get the reports out that we need. We will start our train-the-trainer sessions, and those will go into April, where we start looking more definitely at our go-live planning checklist. In May, we have some additional training for our custom report writing, and we continue with our go-live planning, and then we also will begin our end-user training. We're developing that schedule now. Will probably go out this week to our bookkeepers and principals and supervisors so they can start scheduling dates. We have several days of end-user training because it's not something we can show them in one 3-hour session. It's going to take several 3-4 hour sessions, not only for the bookkeepers, but for the principals and supervisors. So we'll begin that in May. It's going to continue into June. And we will also start adhering to our year-end cutoffs and start taking our manual entry of reappropriated purchase orders. So our open POs that we have in HTE at the end of the year are going to have to be imported. I say import, it is going to be taking them out of HTE in a manual entry. We had the option of converting or importing those into Munis. Tyler gave us that option, but with the number of them that we have, it's actually better for us to really get used to going in the system, creating those purchase orders, getting more exposure in the system. So the finance staff will split up those open POs that we have at the end of the year and manually enter those in the last 2 weeks of the fiscal year. And all that is in preparation for our live processing, which will start in July. The way the holiday and weekend falls, our actual official go-live date will probably be July 6th, I think is that first Monday after. I think the first, maybe it's the 5th. I think the 4th maybe falls on a Sunday this year, or it is a Monday and it's a Tuesday. But either way, it's a few days in, so technically it's not July 1, but we will be ready to go July 1. Jumping into the phase 2 for HR and payroll, we had our kickoff February 16th through 18th. At that kickoff, we started to develop a blackout calendar which took all the dates for HR, payroll, and the other finance and IT staff that are involved, and took the dates that they were going to be unavailable for on-site training and development of the system. We consolidated that into one calendar. Tyler is currently developing our calendar that will take us all the way through go live of phase 2, incorporating those blackout dates into that calendar. We had our preliminary analysis sessions for payroll and HR, and that's just them kind of digging us for information flowing both ways as far as how we process things now, how we want to process things going forward. And I want to point out that the kickoff date originally wasn't until April 1st of 2016, but we were able to bump it up a couple months, about 6 weeks to February 16th. It gives HR and payroll some extra time. Our go live date will roughly stay the same of April 1st of 2017. HR is going to visit Norfolk Public Schools on March 17th. Norfolk has been with Munis for at least 6 or 7 years, and HR asked for an additional site visit because it's been probably 18 months since we did our original site visit, so now it's been a while. They wanted to go in, they wanted to see a school site that's experienced and successful with Munis, see how they've implemented their applicant tracking and position control specifically. A little, I wouldn't say revision to the go live schedule. The first payroll run will still be April 1st of 2017, but I just want to point out that our actual live processing will begin in February and March for the HR and payroll, because the information that we're using in the payroll in April 1 has to be put in the system. So as far as the timekeeping, that will all actually start mid to late February of 2017. And this is just an extra side to show you how Tyler has continued to develop their product. The approvals app is actually on the far right where it says My Work, and it has the 3 tiles for approvals, notifications, and alerts. This is an app they're actually just rolled out to all Apple products, iPads, iPhones. So if you're away from your desk, you have your tablet, you can download the app to your tablet or your cell phone. You can access that from anywhere you have an internet connection, and you can approve requisitions, invoices. Because we are converting so much stuff to electronic approval compared to the way we process things now, this gives our principals and supervisors more mechanisms for approving those items. The one on the left that's actually underneath the approvals app shows you how they can approve if they're at their desk. This is just a quick screenshot of the dashboard, so they would be able to see that they had 1 notification. They actually have 0 approvals there compared to the app on the right, which is showing 2 approvals. Additionally, every year Tyler puts out at least a minor upgrade. So right now we're going to go live with 11.1. They have an 11.2 upgrade that will be released in the April and May timeframe. We're not going to implement that until October because we don't want to implement an upgrade right before we go live. So we will go live, get our processes ironed out, and then we will push out that upgrade. We've already seen what's incorporated in that upgrade, and it brings more enhancements that we're excited about as far as way we can import like our utility invoices and make things a little bit easier on our AP folks. So it's just an example of how Tyler is continually developing their product, unlike our legacy system. Quick high-level recap. As Lance said, we were on time and on budget. In fact, I asked for an update from our project manager last week on where we stood with our contracted days, the days that they're on site or off site, and they're specifically working on our project. And they said we are in good shape. We've used no additional days. We've got plenty of days left to get us not only through phase 1, but phase 2 and phase 3. So our project manager with Tyler has no concerns as far as our budget or staying on schedule. And with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Stein?
Am I stealing your thunder if I ask for this?
No.
We before Nanette really starts to grill you. We have a Finance and Budget Committee meeting scheduled for March 16th. Can we ask you to attend that meeting and give us probably even more in-depth, or at least a question and answer period on where we're at, and possibly even an updated demo?
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's any questions you have ahead of time that you can foresee, if you can go ahead and shoot them to me or Lance or whoever, and I can make sure
I'm sure Nanette will.
We can adequately cover it in the meeting.
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Do you want to go next? Or
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. You talked about the capital assets. Are we doing a physical inventory before we put those in, or are we just taking them from what we have and sticking them in there for now?
We actually do a physical inventory on an annual basis anyways for all of our physical, tangible assets.
Sure.
So we will do that at the end of this fiscal year, excuse me. We usually do it the end of June, early July, so it coincides with our audit reporting timeline.
Will we be tagging differently so we can scan items, or how are we going to do that?
Well, they've actually been tagged already. So we have a tag number that's stored in our system, and then we send those.
It's all manual, though, right?
It is. So several years ago, it started as a scanning system, and we took the scanner around and we scanned them and said, all right, this asset is here. I can review that process, but we have not looked into enhancing that.
Okay. Train the trainers. Who are going to be the trainers?
Myself and other finance staff.
Okay, that's all I need to know. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. I feel like a nerd. I'm getting really excited about this stuff. So it's been a long time coming, and
Excuse me.
No, I mean I'm going through the update, and I'm getting really excited about it. So no offense, Mrs. Kidby. And thank you for not bringing us those numerous 3-ring binders that you.
Oh yeah. I can send you all copies if you'd like.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I thought you were excited.
I am, but I'll leave that part up to you to give me the the truncated version. So.
Sure.
I do have 2 questions, and we may have talked about this before. They just kind of jumped out at me as I was following the presentation. After April 1st, will we have the ability to do more than one payment a month for payroll? Can we do biweekly payroll?
So Munis has the capability to pay whatever pay cycle we choose.
Okay.
So beginning April 1st and for the near future after that, we are staying on a monthly cycle until we get that process perfected.
Gotcha.
And then we can open it up to, can we, as an organization, the way we're staffed and the way the processes are,
right,
can we handle bi-monthly, whatever
it's
we
just good to know
determine.
that there's the possibility that we
Yes.
can, and it would be easier to do it than the way we're doing things now.
And we ask them, how hard is it to convert? If we go live on a monthly, how difficult is it to transition? And they said it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, great. And then the other one was, we hear all the time about the Pentagon getting hacked and other places getting hacked and having their data either compromised or held hostage.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things in place to kind of protect us from that if, God forbid, one of our ACE students decides, well, I'm mad at the school board, so I'm gonna go in and hack the systems in there? Are we set up for that?
Speaking from a high level, because I'm not the IT guy, Dave, but yes, we have gone over that with a lot of detail with Jay Cook and his staff from IT, and they have assured us that we're safe there.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right.
Before Chris leaves, I just wanted to also, on behalf of both of us, thank the county treasurer. She's been very, very cooperative, very helpful, and it's made the process that much easier. There is a lot that will change for her, but she's been open to the process, and I think she realizes we're all in the same boat and that we don't want anybody to fail, her or any of our staff. So she's been great, and we appreciate all all the cooperation that we've had so far. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I had it on there to mention that I actually am meeting with the treasurer this week to follow up on some of the check printing processes, and that'll be several meetings, but, and we've had some initial discussions, but another follow-up meeting this week on how they will access the system from the county site, and we're in the works, once again, with the IT staff here is communicating with their IT staff to make sure they have a smooth process as far as accessing, not only to print checks, but just to access Munis as far as an inquiry method. So the IT department's working well together, and all the staff are working well. So I echo Lance and showing appreciation to the county staff and treasurer's office for making it a smooth transition so far. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We're using one of those C5W skills, that collaboration. So, and our next item regards the FY 2017 budget update. Mr. Wolf, you're already in position.
Okay. You have 3-page set of documents in front of you, the top of which is a schedule that should be very familiar to you from the point of the superintendent's recommended budget in early January through to this point. We've used this as a method of tracking the changes that have occurred in developing what will hopefully be the approved budget for fiscal year 2017. This schedule was adapted based on feedback from the Finance and Budget Committee to reflect what those increases from the superintendent's recommended budget were. And primarily, they relate to positions new positions that have been requested and directed by the collective board. And there are a few minor tweaks that are in here. You're going to see the $43 and $1. I mean, there were some rounding differences that we had to adjust for as we were finalizing and buttoning down our calculations. But primarily, what we added are on another schedule that I can, as I minimize this, I can sort of highlight for you. This is yet another schedule that should be near and dear to you. The positions that have been added by the school board are the positions below the red line. And then most recently, another iteration below the blue line. There were 10 positions added at first, and then another 11, and we also had 5 positions that were not funded in contingency reserve that have been requested to be funded. And the bottom of this page shows a summary of, I'm just going to widen this column here so that everybody can see it, the 100.5 positions that are new positions that are included in the budget. 10 and the 10 and the 11 or 21 are the positions that have been added. So we started out with 79.5 positions added in accordance with the superintendent's recommended budget. The areas highlighted in yellow here, first at the top of this schedule, reflect the fact that some of these positions are shown on this schedule different from the way they originally were shown. Basically, we were requested to show what the funded growth contingency reserve was in FTEs of 8. They originally were included on the top line, and then so we had 3, and then we added another 5, and the third line there was originally 10, and we used 5 of them to be funded. So that reduced that to 5, and the 3 and the 5 gets you the second line of 8. And then when you go to the other block of highlighted in yellow, we had originally 1.5 CTTs at both the elementary and middle school levels, and a half an FTE was taken away from both and added to the ESL, which started as 1, and so the 1 plus 1 became 2. But net, it was an increase of 21 positions, and then the funding for 26 were added because 5 of the positions that were unfunded became funded. And the summary of the dollars in the far right column here for each of these categories is reflected in our lead schedule. Right here, where we say the new positions, the elementary school staffing requirements, which, again, I'll widen this so everybody can see. We had originally 23 elementary school positions added, then the board asked that another 6 be added. We added 5 high school positions for English, I believe, and we also had increase in special education staffing requirements, and part of it which was pre-K, which we've shown separately but have reflected as both being tied to special education that falls under student services. They just had those minor rounding adjustments, so they more or less stayed the same. Then the 8 growth positions, which was 3, and then we added 5. So the funding for that was added. And then the other K through 12 staffing requirements, which was the first group of 10 positions that were added. And we had down on this line, there were some for each of the positions that are added that are teacher classroom positions. We also add dollars for substitutes. And that is primarily the difference there, other than a little bit of rounding. So we started out with the superintendent's recommended budget at $1,250,000 being requested of the county, and the additional positions that have been added increased that request from the county by $1,700,000 up to $2,950,000.
Questions?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Lance, and I'm sorry, I know we've been through this back and forth several times, but can you explain to me one more time, and I know you just went through it, the line that is titled, and it's actually line, can you scroll up just a little?
Which line are you looking for?
That one right there, 13 I think it is. That's 5 for high school staffing requirements class size.
Right.
And you just said that you think those were for English?
Let me go to the other schedule. Let me just minimize this real quick.
I can hear. What?
I wish I could toggle a little bit better.
Okay, but
yeah, they were.
okay, that's the line that's 2.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
included in the 10, right?
Oh, no. That was the 5 that was the enhancement, the additional, the original, I'm sorry. The group of 10 in here was to get up to the current staffing standards per the staffing standards plan that we initially had a draft shared with the board. This 5 was, I was told, to reflect as a separate from those original 2 because the actual increase necessary was somewhere like 24 or 25. I'm not remembering it exactly, but in order to get up to the staffing standard requirement that we have, and the board requested that we start addressing that problem by adding 5 positions.
Yes,
So that's what the 5 is. That's the pure enhancement piece, as opposed to what would get us to what we originally were calling just pure staffing requirements and class size reduction.
Right, I think if we adopt the staffing standards, that line 26 on there is the 2 high school English teachers that would be necessary under meeting the staffing standards, but the board felt, based on comments about high class sizes for English in our high schools and how important many of us felt English was, that we thought that an additional English teacher at each high school was necessary. I believe that's the discussion of the board. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're very, very clear, because it's already out there in the public that the Board of Supervisors are going to fully fund our school requests, which isn't necessarily true of what our true request is going to be going over to the Board of Supervisors. They have included the superintendent's funding request, which is the first column in the color sheet. It's the second column that the school board is going to be asking for an increased funding. So that's why we want to make sure we're very, very clear in what these are for, because they're going to be very inquisitive on, well, why are you asking for more money than what we already have budgeted for? I mean, it's a broken process, but you know, it's on us if we're going to go over there and ask for this money, that we are very clear and have a clear understanding. So I appreciate it. So it's even more clear to me.
Yeah, I think at the last Finance and Budget Committee, I was
I know you
directed to
it's
put
third,
that on a
fourth time
separate
I'm
line.
hearing it, and I'm starting to get it.
Yeah, I know we have an agenda item that speaks to the budget, but first of all, Mr. Wolf, thank you for the many hours I know it takes to produce these documents with our current manual system that we're dealing with, and even more reason to go to, within a couple years, a budget that can utilize our new system. I think it's important, at least to me as a board member, that the public is aware that 90% of the increases, over 90% of the increases that we're asking for, are going directly into the classroom. These are increases that the superintendent, in addition to the school board, has seen a need for, due primarily to class size, so that we can help our teachers enhance the educational experience that our students have at all levels, whether they be elementary, middle school, or high school. And we certainly address some key areas in the superintendent's funding request at an elementary level. The school board wanted to address some key issues in the middle school level, which had to do with mathematics, and also some key issues in the high school level that have to do with English and our class sizes and the support that we can give our students for those very, very important subjects. So I'm really pleased with how this was put together. It's it takes a little bit of work to identify what all these positions are, but they're certainly all supportable, and they're explainable. So thank you very much.
Ms. Kibbe, I just wanted to actually clarify that once we added the 1,000,007 of additional positions, that percentage, remember the day you came to my office and we went through that calculation, you made your request, and we said, okay, yeah, it's over 90%, is now over 95%.
Okay, did you get that, Vanessa? Thank you.
We will be revisiting this at agenda item 13.03 unless there's any additional questions at this point. We will move on. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Thanks again for your work on that. Moving on, we will move on to citizens' comments. I would ask that any speakers shall identify themselves by name, address, and organizational affiliation. If the spokesperson represents an organization, speakers shall also announce the purpose or topic of their comments. 3 minutes shall be allotted to speakers. You'll see we have our red, yellow, and green buttons working. So yellow will come on with 1 minute remaining, and red, please take about 5 seconds and wrap up if that comes on. The chairman reserves the right to restrict the total citizen comment received at any particular meeting to a predetermined maximum number of minutes with the approval of the board. Citizen comment which is profane, abusive, or which threatens imminent physical harm shall be ruled out of order by the chairman. Although the board provides the opportunity for citizen comment, individuals desiring to register complaints against division employees or division programs, services, or activities may also utilize the procedures outlined in Policy 1113, Public Complaints. I have one person signed up. If you are also wishing to speak this evening, if you would go ahead and get up and line up. Our first speaker tonight is Anna Marie Bellino, but if anyone else wishes to speak, please file in behind her and we can go through our comments. Thank you very much.
Hi, members of the board, Dr. Benson. I'm actually just here to tell you it's a big week for us in the Fine Arts Department. We've got a lot going on. The 40th anniversary of the Fine Arts Festival is this weekend, and we actually start our festivities a little early on Friday. We have a guest artist coming. His name is Mark Wood, and he was a member of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra for 14 years, and he's coming to work with our students, our string students, 228 of them at North Stafford High School. He'll work with them Thursday, Friday, and then we'll do a performance on Friday evening, and it is a rock orchestra. So think Trans-Siberian Orchestra with middle and high school students. It's really gonna rock. Tickets, I'm sending a flyer around for you, and on our website, tickets are available, so you can go on and order tickets. The community is welcome to attend. We are expecting a sellout. We're going to bring the house down at North Stafford. Keep the roof up, though, because it is a fairly new roof, right? Right. Right? See, Scott? So we want everyone to come out to that, and that just really starts our weekend festivities, and then we have our 40th anniversary of the Fine Arts Festival at Brook Point, 11 to 4 Saturday and Sunday. And many of you already know this because he is making no secret of it, but we have many performances, including a third grade musical that will be held Saturday morning at 11:30, and our guest narrator is the one, the only, Dr. Benson, so we're very excited to have him participate in our event. We've got performances, anything you can imagine. We've got ukulele clubs from our elementary schools, jazz ensemble, so there's something for everyone, interactive art, and of course, you know, one of the best things about the event is all of the art in the hallways. We have art from our babies in Head Start all the way through our talented, wonderful high school seniors. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there, and I just wanted to give a little shout out to all of my arts teachers who are working very hard this week. Yes, so thank you.
I hope everybody has that on their calendar somewhere to be there. Come on forward.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, school board members, Dr. Benson. My name is Teresa Thompson, and I'm representing the Stafford Education Association. Stafford Education Association has worked very closely with Central Office and Dr. Benson regarding our climate survey. And one of the things that we have been working on with climate survey is trust and transparency. As Mr. Wolf was doing his presentation on the budget, I was scrolling through the agenda trying to find the material that was being put up on the screen, and I couldn't find it. And I was using my nice little cell phone, and it wasn't part of the agenda under the information item. And then I clicked on the information item, and there was a couple of things there regarding priorities and that sort of thing. And then I went to the school board, the budget page under the, let's see, financial services, and that piece of information's not there either. So if we could get it posted on the website so that some of us that like to look at numbers could take a look at it, we'd greatly appreciate it. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers who wish to address the board? If not, then I will close citizen comment. We will move on to 9.01, Ms. Egan regarding student discipline matters.
Okay, on February 18th, 2016, a committee of the board met to consider one student disciplinary matter. The committee found or suspended student A for 10 days with 7 days actively served and 3 days held in abeyance, conditioned upon good behavior. That's all the rest.
Okay. Well, we'll go on to board member comments. Ms. Healy, you want to start us off?
Sure. Just very quickly, I want to echo the advertisement for the Fine Arts Festival this weekend. It is one of the absolute most incredible performances I've ever been to. And not just the students that are involved, of course, they are the highlights and the stars, but the families and the support that they give to make this possible, getting the students there, getting them to practices, and the teachers and staff who bring all those artworks. I remember the art teacher at my daughter's elementary school talking about how it took, a day and a half to get it there and then get it back, and all those little clay things that the kids make that are so adorable and you keep forever. Well, somebody has to carry them over. Somebody has to take them out of the car, set them up, and then take them back down. So if you have a chance to thank your fine arts teachers, I suggest you do so, even outside of Teacher Appreciation Week, because they put a whole lot into making this possible. But it's just an amazing event, and it almost brings tears to your eyes to watch and hear and listen, and there's so much going on. I mean, you could literally spend the whole weekend there, but I highly recommend, even if you have a little time, a lot of time, whatever time, that you head out to Brook Point and take advantage. Thank you.
Ms. Egan?
I don't really have a lot. I'm still trying to get back into the swing of things for my long sandy stay in Aruba.
Thanks.
Sorry. Had to say it one last time before the tan fades. I won't repeat it. It looks like Brook Point High School is going to be rocking itself this weekend. We just said the Fine Arts Festival, but the JROTC field events are this weekend. On Saturday, they're being held at the practice baseball field, and Mrs. Reinboldt's going to come and help out, I understand, so that's good. They start at 8:30, and it's great to watch all the cadets get together and support each other, and they make teams up and things like that. So I will be attending that, and I will be attending the baseball cleanup. It's preseason cleanup. Welcome back to all the spring sports. I'm really excited about baseball. My son made the JV team, so I'm really excited about that. So that's it. Just wanted to say hi.
Ms. Kidby?
Just one more quick plug for this weekend, 11 to about 4 or 5 p.m., Brook Point High School, the 12th and the 13th. So sounds like it's going to be a good time. I wanted to express my personal condolences to the McCosker family for their loss. Mr. McCosker is not able to be with us tonight, and my heartfelt condolences go to their family. All of our great athletes that were represented here tonight, again, my personal congratulations. I'm always amazed at that wrestling team at Colonial Forge. They're amazing. I think it's a direct reflection on the young men, but also on that coach. I'm pretty impressed with that coach. So congratulations to all our athletes, whether they be gymnasts, swimmers, basketball, football, or wrestling.
Ms. Fallon?
I just want to say that to add to the Fine Arts Festival, I am taking a very large envelope with me tomorrow to the Virginia School Board Association Northeast meeting so that I can show off some of our fabulous artwork to people who are not going to drive down to Stafford this weekend, or it may entice them to drive down and check out all the other artwork we have. I just want to say that I'm continuing to travel around with Dr. Benson to check out schools since I haven't seen them all yet. We got to go over to Moncure a couple weeks ago to see the C5W in action, and it was amazing and exciting, and I am enjoying these visits with Dr. Benson, I'm sure far more than he is having my company.
Mr. Harrods.
Is there something going on at Brook Point this weekend? I think we'll all make it by the Arts Festival at some point. I'm going to be out there on Sunday. I did want to mention the ribbons that all of us are wearing were provided to us by Empower House, which is a organization for supporting survivors of domestic violence, located actually in the Falmouth District. I believe it is for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we are all supporting Empower House in that activity. Today is also National Women's Day, as I understand, and as the only male on this board tonight, on the board, I want to say how much I appreciate perspectives that you ladies provide to this board. So thank you.
Isn't it also National Pancake Day? I heard that in the news today. You still have a few hours left to go and get your free pancakes.
I would just like to say a thank you to the board for all the work that has gone into the budget. Our staff has been very, very helpful, but it's been a delight working with our board on, we've had Saturdays, we've had snow, we've had other things, but working on this budget and hearing so much about each person talking about how much we want to support the classroom and having a plan going forward of what we want to do. I just would like to say, we don't always agree on a lot of things, but I have to say when we were in our budget, there was a lot of agreement on where we wanted to go and how much we wanted to support the classroom. So I will, well, I feel like I need to, but I think everybody's excited about the Fine Arts Festival. I would like to give a shout out, though. I would like to say that on the event that Ms. Bellino came up and talked about is something that's being put on by some of our first year strings instructors in our schools. And we talk so much about, our teachers and how we want to keep them, and I just think it's great that we're supporting something by two brand new first-year teachers who've brought in an amazing program to our program. And so I'm sorry, I think the Anna Marie's left, but I know that the support that she and Central Office has given to two first years who probably came and said, we really want to be able to do this, and they've been able to pull off an incredible evening. I'm sorry that it's competing, I hear, with the Stafford High School event that night. There's always stuff going on. Most of you know I will be probably rocking out with the strings since I have one of the 218. But that's exciting for our teachers, so I just wanted to give a call out to those two teachers and the work that they've done. I also wanted to say, as we said as we worked as a board on the work session day, we made a commitment, or there was a thought that we would like to move to having a small group or something look into a governance or policy type committee. There was general consensus. I did not put it on as an agenda item. I would like to see personally if there were two other board members or a group that would like to work on doing a charter and stuff going forward, just like how we formed the finance and budget, come together, do a charter, work mission statement, and bring that to the board in the coming 6 to 8 weeks, so we can consider that over the summer when we do broad appointments. So I felt like there was general consensus, so if there are volunteers to take the... Were you waving furiously? I love waving furiously.
That's right. I thought I saw Mrs. Kidby's hand.
Mrs. Kidby, was your hand waving as well?
I'll help out. She can't resist spending more
Spend time with Emily.
The nice thing about that is then we can get some of this moving forward to bring to the board for further discussion, but we'll work together as a team. So I thank you all for that. And with that, we'll turn to Dr. Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I really don't have a lot to add. I think that we've covered pretty much everything, and we do have some really exciting opportunities in the next few days going into the weekend, an opportunity to celebrate with our young people and our parents and our greater Stafford County community. I will just add, I am working on my shoemaker costume for the third grade musical. Just saying.
What time is that going to be? Forgot to tell us what time.
I think it's 11:30, correct? 11:30. So
On Saturday.
on Saturday, 11:30 on Saturday.
All right, pictures are welcome. So moving on to our consent items, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve 11.0.
Yep.
11.
11.0.
11.
Yep, all of 11. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent items are approved unanimously. Let's move on to action items. 12.01, approve new strategic plan, beliefs, vision, mission, and goals.
Scott?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve item 12.01.
Second?
Is there any discussion? It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
If I'll open up.
Yes.
This plan has been in the works for quite some time. We've had a lot of input from a lot of stakeholders throughout the division and throughout the community, really. This is the first official step I believe we're taking to get this plan actually fully adopted. This is adopting our beliefs, vision, mission, and goals. We just had a work session prior to this meeting that we started working on the next level, the next part of this that will eventually lead us to having a fully implemented strategic plan, of which we'll have solid metrics that we'll be able to measure how we're doing, and more importantly, report to the community as a whole, all of our stakeholders, the division, taxpayers, the board of supervisors, on how we're doing as a school division. So I'm really excited about this. It's something that I've wanted to see happen since the day I took this seat up here, and I am really excited. We're going to be moving forward on this here pretty soon.
Madam Chair? I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank all of the folks that served on it, but especially to thank Mrs. Healy and Mr. Hirons for all the work that they contributed to this committee, because this is a really big part of identifying who we are, and great work was done here. So thank you, guys.
Ms. Healy?
Thank you, Mrs. Egan, but now I in turn want to thank Dr. Benson, because I think this board made it clear to him shortly after he joined us, that this was a priority for the board, a strategic plan, something that was relevant, something that we'd be able to measure and really put forth, what our vision and mission is. And he took that directive and really ran with it with the committee, because we had fantastic people on the committee that Mr. Hirons and I were able to sit in with and give a few comments to. But not only was it the committee, then Dr. Benson took it to all the advisory committees and then put all that together, and that's the product that you see here tonight. So thank you, Dr. Benson.
Any other board member comments? It was exciting work, I have to say, in the work session, looking at this culmination of work and knowing that it's just the beginning, it's just the first step, but looking to rebrand and move our division forward. I think it's going to be very exciting work. So with that, I will close discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously, approving the new strategic plan, belief, vision, and mission. Moving on to 12.02, approve Stafford County Public Schools Staffing Standards Plan.
Madam Chair, move for approval.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just would like to say thank you so much to Pam Cal and her team, who have played with these numbers and fixed these numbers and moved these numbers manually for us as we asked to look at things a little bit differently, and giving us full descriptions of them, and thank you very much.
Madam Chair, can I ask, will copies of this report be available to distribute to the Board of Supervisors at least by next Tuesday evening? Great, thank you. And put online.
That was my
We'll talk
question,
about the
whether
budget in a
there'd be
few
a link.
minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead. Come on up, Mrs. Kale.
This will just change on the bottom. If you approve, to approved, and it will be darker, and to say the date as requested.
Okay. One
Ms.
more
Kidby.
comment, if I could. I know that this document is unique to Stafford County Public Schools. We've had staffing guidelines in the past that have been helpful, but never have we had such a comprehensive document that actually allows us to see where we need to go in order to be able to meet the specific needs of not only our students but also our staff, so that we can support the staff to support the students. And I think this document is worth every single blood, sweat, and tear that went into it, and I know there were many. And we appreciate it. Thank you.
I also want to say thank you. I know it was painful, and starting with the reports that you gave us, earlier in the year, which we've never seen before, that the kind of detail and statistics for the elementary and the secondary schools, it's really good to have those numbers. And actually, I think that what you gave us in the staffing plan really helped determine the budget. And when we get a question about why did the board increase the request for funding, I'm very comfortable in saying because we wanted to make those ratios better in the classroom. And you gave us the information we needed to be able to make those decisions. I think these standards are a step in the right direction. I know Mr. McOsker isn't here, but we all know how strongly he felt about wanting to even reduce it further in the elementary schools. And I am cautiously optimistic that in future years we will be able to reduce that class size. And what we're doing now with the staffing plan and the budget is definitely heading in the right direction. We're going to have smaller classes rather than larger classes. That's one of the ones we don't want to win with a high numbers contest. Thank you.
I noticed that this also wasn't on the agenda either. I'm guessing that this got printed late.
Was it late?
It was just on time.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to call you out. I
No,
just
I had
on the heels
lots
of what was
help,
mentioned tonight.
But we were waiting because we had a beautiful cover, and that was done by Gianna Stadelmeyer, and she did a fantastic job. And so we wanted to make sure it looked just right.
Gotcha.
And so we'll be ready. And in fact, going back to your question, Mr. Hirons, we can have copies for the Board of Supervisors earlier if you would like.
I know if you can get them to them, tomorrow or Thursday, I think it could be included in their board package delivery that they receive. But we definitely want them to have them in their hands Tuesday night.
No problem. Thank you.
Is there anything? Can we turn this into Cliff Notes for them? Because you know that they're not going to read all this stuff.
Of course they will. Some of them will. Some of them will.
I'd just like to make a brief comment or before we vote as well. As was stated by all board members, this grew out of a class size report that started a year ago, which was within the very beginning of Dr. Benson's start with us. And it grew from there. So the data-driven part about our school division and the critical thinking, the things that we're talking about, are all creating these plans and these things that we want to continue to invest in our school system. But the only way that you know how to invest is to know where you are. And first we learned where we are with looking at class size reports on various levels, and then we went from there and we said, okay, is this where we want to be? And I think the answer that this board came up with was no, it was not. We saw in our budget goals, part of it was all about what data-driven materials can help us make the best decisions. And we specifically called out class size, analysis of lots of different reports. And to me, this staffing standards is a culmination of those events. It's a great way forward for our community, and it's very focused on the classroom. I believe going forward, this will be sort of a report card, because What we don't see right now on this report is an additional column, and the additional column that's going to be in there from year to year is, how did we do? How did we do in budget year whatever to meet these goals? And then each year, we will get to see that progress. And I think that's the exciting work. This isn't going to be something that's thrown into a closet and forgotten. It's going to be every year, Dr. Benson and his staff will come before us and say, here's how we did. After we pass the budget, after we get or approved a budget, we will know, here's how far we got on our plan, and we'll be able to say to our community, to our funding body, and to our students and staff, here's how far we got, and here's where we're going in the future. We have a plan. So I am thrilled to be able to vote for this evening. So without any further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to information items, approve superintendent's revision to policy 1114, school board clerk, deputy clerk. I know that I am on here for this one, but I am going to give credit where credit is due. Our, as we called it the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, our super clerk came to us and told us about something she learned when she went to her training about a way that we could save money regarding our books and how we keep our books. And she brought that to the Finance and Budget Committee. She mentioned it to me, but she also brought it to Finance and Budget of just a way that we could do that. So in order for us to do that, there was a revision made to the, it shows the Code of Virginia in our red line, how we would just need to make sure that she is the identified person to keep the records of the proceedings. And it is a small savings, but it's a savings for us. So I just wanted to compliment Roberta for bringing it to us and just to bring that to our attention. I don't know if there's any other comments about this.
The savings should cover Miss Egan's water budget.
She wants the big bottles. Big girl bottles. Oh, my.
That's funny.
All right. Well, let's move on. We can come to the next one, to 13.02, approval of FY 2017 budget. I know we've had an initial presentation. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, can we address Ms. Thompson's point that the documents were not able to be found either in the budget item here or online? And I want to ensure we're in compliance with any state code. I know this is just our funding request and this is not our budget, but if any state code requires us to have it online, are we going to cause ourselves any grief? And I appreciate that we're in compliance, but I do want to say that it's not very transparent, and we should have this information available.
Well, I agree with you to be transparent, but part of the process in verifying the staffing standards was to have financial services involved in verifying the numbers. Our involvement did not end on that process until today.
Lots of moving parts, okay.
And then with regard to the transparency itself, we plan on having the 3 files on the website and adding them to the agenda items so that everybody can go in behind and see that information. But you're absolutely right. I mean, our goal was to have had everything done sooner, but it came down to the wire. And to be honest with you, we also had a health insurance RFP process that was winding its way down, and we had some moving numbers with regard to that. So I wasn't feeling comfortable about putting data out there until I knew the numbers weren't going to change anymore, and so we were waiting for today to get to that point. Unfortunately, it meant not being able to put that information out there any sooner.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that, but on the other hand, we were trying our best.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. I kind of, when I first opened the agenda, when it was first activated, I kind of recognized it wasn't in there, and then today I went to look to see if it had been put in there, and I noticed it hadn't. I was going to give you a call and ask, but I appreciate your explanation now. But anything we can do to increase our transparency, we're going to have a strategic plan that I think has the word transparency in it. We need to make sure we're doing
Well,
all
I
we
think
can.
the most important thing that needed to be done has already been approved by the board, and that is getting a new financial system that will enable us to pull this data together much quicker.
Amen.
I also wanted to thank my staff, especially Kate and Gilliam and Gwen Gilliam in budget and planning for all the work they put in, and then all the other members of the financial services team. We actually relied on each other to get information together, to be able to address questions and be prepared. And so I just wanted to put my shout out to all of my staff for all their hard work during the whole budget development process.
Kind of stole my thunder there a little bit, Mr. Wolf. I was going to add my thanks, my personal thanks to Kate. I know that you had to kind of pick up a ball that was rolling downhill and make some changes and do some adjusting, and you've done an amazing job. Thank you so much. Mr. Wolf, do we happen to have an extra copy of this handout?
I can get extra copies.
Could we get one to SCA that's
We can
back
do that,
there,
yes.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Please, that would be great. Thank you.
Are you planning to get this on the website by tomorrow?
I'm going to be
sometime?
sending the files to Valerie when
Right
this
now?
meeting. Yeah, when this
Okay,
meeting is.
fantastic. Thanks.
Is it our hope that we're going to have this ready for the meeting next week for the Board of Supervisors?
Yes. If
Can
you
we,
would like
can we, is anybody opposed to maybe moving this to action?
Nope, we would have,
No,
I'm ready to entertain.
Can we continue the discussion?
Let's finish the discussion first. That's
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, that yours finished.
Good.
I have a question on the resolution. I don't know, did you prepare it, or
We
you
prepared it
drafted
together.
Okay. This says, whereas population growth in Stafford County has created additional demands for personnel, operating costs, classroom space, and equal classroom facilities. I was wondering what equal classroom facilities it is intended to refer to.
That's a good question. I'm not going to pretend that I know precisely what that is, but I think that's a word that's been in there for the last number of years. Not that that's an excuse. I'm
Right.
not trying to rely on that.
Thank you.
But if you would wish to strike that word, we can do that.
Well, I'm just wondering if I'm going to vote on a resolution, I want to understand and be in agreement with what it states. If it intends to say, parity or equality, but that may be something else, but equal classroom facilities doesn't
It
tell
really
me
doesn't make
much.
any, no, and it doesn't really make any sense because we've got the personnel, which when we're talking about the classroom is our teachers. You've got the operating costs, which have to do with everything associated with, the support for the classroom. You have the classroom space, which is where our students come together. And then the classroom facilities, which are all the other
How about we change it?
technology devices and what have you that we furnish and provide.
What it meant to me when I read it, and I'm glad you brought it up, is proportional, that it was equal in proportion, but that's just my brain, my math brain.
I didn't know what it meant. So
Proportional
I would
to
have,
the,
we would have to go back to what the original intent
yeah.
when this originally found itself in the template.
Okay, but right now, we're just dealing with today.
Right.
New world, new day.
Yes, and if you would like to strike the word equal so that it says "and classroom facilities," I think that would make.
Well, what's the difference between classroom space and classroom facilities? That would be my question.
Well, the facilities, more so than just the actual space where they come to, it's all, like I said, it's all the devices, textbooks, and other things that go into making the classroom
Well, what if we
experience
just,
what it needs to be.
what if we strike facilities and just say "and equal classroom opportunities," because then that covers everything. It covers technology, it covers parity, it covers a little bit of everything. Opportunities
Opportunities.
versus facilities. Is that all right?
I'm willing to go with whatever word the board collectively feels is appropriate.
Equal classroom opportunities. It seems like it touches on all of it. What are you laughing
But
at?
how is the population growth created? I mean,
Right.
clearly,
I think
the
it's
population growth, you need more operating money, you need more teachers, you need more space.
You need opportunities
or-
for programs.
I would
I
just
mean-
say classroom space and facilities. That's
Yeah.
how I would
Okay.
have it read.
Yeah, okay,
I'm backing out.
Well, I'm just trying to have something here because I want to be an advocate for this budget and this resolution, so I want to be able to at least interpret it. Then the other question has to do with the number 2 bullet, where we're requesting that all school operating funds unexpended on June 30th, 2016 be carried forward to fiscal year 2017. And I know that's something that we traditionally do. Don't we have an understanding, and I don't know if it's in writing or not, with the Board of Supervisors on how those funds are going to be expended if they come back? Is that a written agreement? We had an agreement at one point and then we didn't, and I don't know.
The Board of Supervisors has a policy, and their policy specifically addresses your question.
One-time use. So would there be any objection, and maybe this is a question for the FAB, if we're asking for the unexpended funds to be carried over, would it not be appropriate to say to be expended in accordance with the Board of Supervisors, current policy or something?
Current
So we're not-
financial management
Yeah,
policy.
so we're not just saying, give us some money back and we'll do what we want. I mean, I think it acknowledges that there is a standard set by the supervisors, and traditionally, we don't get the money back until we explain everything we're going to use it for, but if we're asking for it up front, it seems that it would be, a good spirit of cooperation to say, to be expended as, your policy, says. But I would say current policy, in case that policy has changed, at some point in the future. But it acknowledges that we just aren't asking for it to come back and do anything we want with it.
So what I have is,
Well, I'm just a question for the board.
I don't object. I think
I don't
it's,
object. I have no objection to
it just details it more and.
it. In accordance with Board of Supervisors financial management.
Current.
Yes, correct.
That's what they're.
yeah, the language I have, just to make sure, is in accordance with the Board of Supervisors' current financial management policy.
That sounds reasonable to me. I want to be reasonable here, I mean, we still haven't gotten last year's back yet, and it's almost the end of this year.
It's really better that whoever gets it, but I like to have it as well. Okay, are there any further questions or comments? And Dr. Benson?
Madam Chair, if I could just add, I just want to point out that this is a request of the supervisors, and we have 3 kind of unknowns that need to be resolved. One is, actually 2 of them are related to our revenue. We know that there's a possibility we may see some additional revenue from the state. We know what Mr. Romanello has included in his budget request of the supervisors, but there's still a question about exactly where that local revenue is going to land. So there are 2 revenue sources there that will be part of the dialogue. The other thing that we will hear next week in our joint meeting with the supervisors is information regarding our health insurance and the potential for us to to have a different package, and then knowing what the costs for that will be. And until all of those things are known to us, and that comes back and the board adopts a budget with money specifically allocated to different portions of the budget, it's not a done deal. So there's still opportunity for the board to make adjustments as that picture clears up.
Could I clarify the third whereas? Would the board prefer the language say for personnel, operating costs, classroom space, and facilities?
I think that's
I
what
think
we
that's
said.
the cleanest, yeah.
That's fine.
Yep, that sounds great.
Yep.
That's what we said.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd move to move
I want to make sure.
item 1302 to action.
Second. All right, there's been a motion to move 13.02, approval of FY 2017 budget, to action. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This item has been moved to action.
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve item 1302 and adopt our funding request for FY 2017.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I do just want to tout this funding request a little bit. Number one, Dr. Benson has done another fabulous job with Lance and his team putting this budget together and this funding request. That does a lot of things that we really want to do and gets us moving forward. From the funding request that Dr. Benson brought forward, it continues our path of improving our teacher compensation model, gets us how much closer to the median of the market?
Within 2 to 3%. That would be our worst case. So we're lots of other places we're doing better than that.
Awesome.
We are taking care of a few other compensation areas. We still have much further to go in that aspect, but I'm really excited about those. The other thing that the school board came together and agreed upon unanimously was our class size reduction initiative plan push. We're asking for funds to enable us to put this little document into action and to tell the community that this board values smaller classes here in Stafford County. And we're asking for funding to start our plan. Our primary goal is to attack K through 5 classes and put caps on the class sizes in K through 5, with kindergarten classes being capped at 24 students, 1st through 3rd grades capped at 26, and 4th through 5th capped at 28. And that, if we are able to achieve this funding, we're pretty certain that we can make those caps hard and fast so we can really see some significant differences in our classrooms throughout the county. We're really excited about that, or at least I am. I think I'm joined by all of my board members. I do want to give a shout out to Mr. McCosker, who's not here, who I was a little worried when he put the notion forward to let's be more aggressive, but we did it. And we have a funding request that includes that aggressive approach to bring that cap number down even more. Now, we don't want classes 4th and 5th grade at 28 students, but this gets us a heck of a lot better than where we sit today. So I appreciate everyone's support on this and the hard work that went into this to make this budget year probably one of the most productive and most satisfying thus far. Now, we'll take it to the Board of Supervisors, see how they react, get the information from the state, from the health benefits, and see where we sit in a few weeks, and come back and hopefully have a nice, smooth process to adopt this.
I just wanted to add, Dr. Benson alluded to the state revenue, but for the benefit of all the board members, the Senate version would provide us with additional funding of about $400,000. The House of Delegates adopted or approved version would provide us with about $1.4 million. We'll eventually land somewhere in between the two. Where, we don't know. So there's hope that we'll have some additional revenues.
Ms. Healy.
Mr. Hirons, did your motion include the 2 revisions that we discussed in the resolution?
I most certainly hope so. I think that's what
thank
I
you.
assumed came across as from information to action. So yes, the motion, if not clear, it does include the edits that we made to the resolution.
Any other comments?
I had one.
Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate the comment of the smaller class sizes and moving in that direction, and the board has really put that at the forefront. And there's always other projects that can be done, replacement of technology and other things, but we've really put a lot of thought into this when we asked for more money, that it is going into the classroom. And I think it's important for the community and for the Board of Supervisors to understand what we added on to Dr. Benson's budget is going into the classroom.
Any other comments? And I would just like to say, as much as we talk about the classroom size, I know I think of it many times as a parent of, well, I want my student to be in there, but it's also a workload issue in terms of for our staff. And we are so focused on retaining, recruiting our staff that we know that we would like to be known as a county that has small class size, that when you come here, you are going to be in a reasonably sized classroom. And I think this is a great first step. This budget takes us in that direction. But I also want to say it's also a recognition of the hard work of our teachers today in some of the larger classrooms that we have as well. With that, I will ask all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to 13.03, approve YMCA school-age childcare contract with usage fee of $30,000 per year. Any questions on this particular item? No?
Yeah, I had one.
You said yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this contract increased in cost significantly, or is it about the same as what we were experiencing last year?
Well, in terms of the usage fees, we set the usage fees in the RFP to $30,000. The thing that impressed us about the Rappahannock Area Y proposal was that there was a sliding scale, and it's $85 per week for one child. Help me, Mr. Zinger. And then we were also impressed, of course, by the diversity of the curriculum that met the needs academically and physically and emotionally of the children, and just the stellar evaluations that we've had working with Rappahannock Area Y for the past 5 years. Now, specifically back to your question about the fees, the other thing that impressed us was the $85 in addition to their reductions for, obviously for if they have multiple children in the program, okay. Also, there's reductions for school employees and also county government employees, and reductions if they happen to be a member of the Y. And also, there's a financial need reduction too that was really different from the other proposals that we evaluated and were submitted to us. So the committee made up of a school and district level staff, we were unanimous in recommending that we agree to this contract with the Rappahannock Area Y for our child care program.
I just wanted to say something real quickly. Thanks to the committee for getting together on this, and me personally, I'm not speaking for the board, I'm glad that the Y is coming back. Hopefully, if the board votes on it. As long as I've been involved in the school system, as long as the Y has been there, I've gotten multiple kudos from parents when I was involved with the PTO. So I'm, for one, glad to see the YMCA is coming back. So thanks.
Okay.
Ms. Kippy.
Yeah, I just had a follow-up question. You spoke about part of the program and the curriculum with the program. I'd love to see some of that curriculum. What kinds of activities the students are involved in the after-school program, just for me personally.
Okay.
Certainly not contingent on my approval or disapproval of this particular item, but I'm just very curious about the program.
Yeah, we've been always pleased. Our principals have been impressed. In the RFP that they presented to us, there's a detailed description of their curriculum all through the week and all through the year.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And Madam Chairman, are there any other questions?
Yep, that's what I was, any further questions? No? Okay.
I'd like to thank Mr. Zinger, who took the lead on this project. He did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for staying. Moving on to 13.04, regarding the superintendent's proposed revision to policy 4304. I'm not sure if there's a briefing or discussion on this one. Mrs. Healy.
I just have a question. Dr. Benson, because we had those years that we did not give any step increases, for several years when we hire a teacher, we actually subtract years from their experience. Does this, I didn't see anything here, but I could be missing it. Is that addressed in this new guideline?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but because we have moved away from a traditional step model and are looking at years of service, while we still cap maximum years of service that folks can bring in, those adjustments should have been taken into consideration as we were placing folks into the new compensation model. But I'll ask Mr. Fitzgerald to respond with any additional information.
Okay. I know it was painful when we had to do that, so I just wanted to, for my own information, to see if there's any effect of the experience on this guideline. So it really doesn't matter, are we saying, how many years' experience somebody has, or?
In terms of the changes that we're recommending and the new policy and the regulation?
Let's take a hypothetical. We hire a teacher who has 3 years of experience.
Those 3 years were reinstated in our current employees, so.
So it's been reinstated
Yes,
for
ma'am.
everybody? Okay, that
Yes,
answers my question, then we don't need to address it. I didn't realize when did we reinstate that?
With the model adjustment.
Good.
Of the new model.
Okay,
everybody's
that's
right.
really good news for me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I noticed that we give credit for military service, and it says 1 year of teaching experience shall be given for each 5
Yes, ma'am.
full-time period of honorable military service. And I would imagine that in this area, that's something that we see frequently. In other areas, maybe not so much. Why 5 years? Where did that come from? Was that
Historically, it was based, I think it has been established as a precedent. We just stuck to it. And we can go up to 3 times the 5. So somebody who's been in the military for 15 years, we can give them 3 steps credit at that particular point, at least.
Is that just for teachers, or is that any particular
Well,
position?
it's counting for teachers, and if they
It's for teachers.
right. And
about
that really came
administrative
about
people,
with
or-
the troops to teachers program, the military
Okay.
career transition program,
Okay.
is where it really started, as I recall,
Okay.
some
All right.
years back.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions about this item? All right, moving on to 13.05, 2016-17 high school student fees. Any questions from the board? I believe this is Dr. White.
Mrs. Hazard, start saving your money for when your children are seniors.
I'll have 2 in high school next year, so I'm getting there. Yes, Ms. Fallon. Dr. White?
What happens if a child is unable to pay the fees? The family is unable to pay the fees?
We do have some fee waivers that the principals can provide for parents based on need. Some things, if they do not pay, then they are not able to participate in some of the events, especially their senior year and junior year. Some of the cost events. For example, the senior breakfast, some of those things that they do, and the senior picnic, some items they will not be able to participate in if they do not pay their dues.
Any other questions? Okay.
And forgive me if it says it in the agenda item. I don't think it does. You can pay these fees online now?
I'm not sure.
Not
I'm
sure
not
we-
sure. I can find
Really?
that out for you.
It would be nice to be able to.
It would be really nice. I remember standing in
Don't think we have it
lines
yet. I'll
every
see.
year.
Back to school.
Yeah, then you get up
I
there
still
and
do
you,
it. Oh my God.
yeah.
Most of them you can, I understand.
Most of them
yeah.
you can? Okay, great, thanks.
And the one significant change that we added was the transcript.
Transcripts,
It
that's
was
cool.
$4.
Yeah.
Principals got together. They felt that since the ease of the electronic transcript, that they should be free, and then reduce it down to $1 if individuals want multiple copies of transcripts to be mailed.
Very cool. Right. All right. Moving on to 13.07, approve the award of a construction contract to Air Tech Solutions in the amount of $448. Oops.
Calendar. 06, the calendar.
Wow, how did I do that? Sorry. It's because Ms. Egan's computer went down and I messed up. So 13.06, approve superintendent's recommended school calendar for school year 2017-18. Mr. Fitzgerald and Mrs. Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, Dr. Benson, I'd like to introduce Ms. Dorothy Woods. She's a member of the calendar committee. She's one of the Heartwood representatives. And she was kind enough to attend this evening as a representative. We have, this past year, one of the most exciting groups of individuals we've had over the past 10 years. It's hard to believe, but I finished actually this is my 11th year as a facilitator. I won't say anything more than I just happened to be there, and I try to keep this group together and focused on our efforts to maintain a development of a calendar on an annual basis. And so this year, and this is on behalf of the superintendent, because this is a committee of the superintendent. So this year, our effort, like it was last year in getting the 16-17 calendar together, which we did do in this similar time frame last year, and get it approved. This year, our focus was the 17-18 calendar. And so we got started. We were very lucky to have this wonderful group of individuals. We had, as you can see, a large committee. Our effort, one of the efforts that we wanted to include was broaden the committee's numbers. We ensured that we had at least 2 representatives named. Just to show you how we came up with so many members, we actually sent out a request for all the principals to send us names. And we had so many names that I actually had to put names in a bag and draw out names. And then we contacted the individuals and said, would you do this? And so we had some disappointed people, but we had at least 2 names for each district, and it was great, as well as a number of staff. And Ms. Wood was kind enough to represent us. And when we got the group together, they were excited, they were enthusiastic. And they said, well, you know, one of our efforts was to get the community involved more so. So one of the first things we talked about doing was having an open forum. Mr. Hirons was with us that night, Ms. Fallon, and I want to apologize, Ms. Fallon, I wasn't able to introduce her that night. I don't think I even had a chance to be introduced myself. I didn't see her in the crowd. But we had a great turnout of sorts. I won't tell you that it was a large turnout, but we had a very enthusiastic turnout to talk about some different ideas. And that's where that second bullet comes in. We talked about some different perspectives in terms of what the calendar committee might want to talk about in its smaller group meetings. We talked about things like wake-up times for kids and having to get to school. We know that other districts had talked about start times for schools. We talked about it. We just talked about it. No, we didn't see a lot of enthusiasm, but we did see some very interesting discussion about it. We talked about a variation on calendars. We heard discussion about, believe it or not, year-round calendar. We heard discussion about the very familiar to some of you board members who have been with us a while, the old pre-Labor Day calendar, and some discussion about that. We talked about a number of topics, as it turned out, and it was a very enlightening, just in general kind of evening. And it followed up that we talked about these same subjects as we got into our meetings that we had on a weekly basis throughout the month of February, as it turned out. And then, of course, our main objective seemed to be, and it was as it should be, the 17-18 calendar. We finally had some kind of general outcomes that we wanted to bring to your attention. We did, as we talked through all of these issues and we kind of wrestled with some ideas, we did say, well, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to think in terms of, at some later date, just, you know, maybe turning over the idea and talking to the superintendent about a futures committee at some point, maybe just a group of people sitting down and talking about, well, where might we be in the future in terms of calendars? You know, summers are a very active time for students. How would that integrate into some sort of regular program of studies? Would it be something that would be a possible concept to evolve at some later date on a regular basis. We talked about, as this turned out, it was the time of year where, first of all, it got bitter cold. That was one of the factors that we think might have affected our turnout that evening, because it was very cold. It was also the same time we had some days out for bad weather, so the discussion around bank time came about. I remember the evening coming up to the podium, and I was taking down the PowerPoint, and Ms. Wood and a few other people were talking to me about, could we do something like a bank time ticker? And I said, well, what exactly are you talking about? And we started talking about, well, you know, something that keeps track of the bank time. How much bank time do we have left? So believe it or not, we actually developed, as a result of the calendar committee's discussion that evening and in later meetings, we now have a bank time ticker, and we could actually show you that at some point in time if you were interested. And then of course, again, we have the 2017-18 calendar that we've developed. Before we move on and show you that, I wanted to first share a little bit more about the 2017-18 calendar and let Ms. Wood kind of give you a little bit of the Reader's Digest version of some of the discussion that took place with regard to the 17-18 calendar. We had, at one point in time, we did come up with 5 different recommendations for the superintendent. And as you saw in your briefing that was submitted earlier, we're down to 2. But if, Ms. Wood, you want to kind of give an overview of those 5 different calendars that we came up with?
There were 3 post-Labor Day calendars that were submitted, and they've been narrowed down, I believe, by Dr. Benson down to 2. There are also 2 pre-Labor Day calendars that we discussed, and one that the committee did send to Dr. Benson. In my opinion, I think it's worth discussing and investigating more. However, there are some members of the committee that feel like it's not worth discussing because every year it is voted down. So I think members of this committee need to hear if the board is willing to explore these pre-Labor Day calendars or not. But there was much discussion, much to consider. As a member of the committee, I learned a lot, and I know everyone else did also. There's so many variables that go into making up this calendar, and so many different grade levels that also need to be, their time has to be considered. So I want to thank Mr. Fitzgerald for leading us and for this opportunity.
So when we started looking at the final 2 calendars that evolved from the discussions, as it turned out, they both were, as it turned out, post-Labor Day calendars. And draft 1 did have of the post-Labor Day did have the majority consensus of the committee. And what you notice about it is that there is an early release on Veterans Day, November the 10th, and that November 22nd is a student-teacher holiday. I'm going to bring that calendar up now, and again, it's in your packet. I want you to notice, particularly December the 21st is also recommended as a holiday as well as a full day off, and that would give you basically 13 days for winter break. But again, the big difference there is that November the 10th is an early release day. And so that did stand out as the 2 major differences. December 21st is a holiday. November the 10th would be an early release. And the committee did have a lot of discussion about that. It was a toss-up in some respects. Others felt very strongly that the 10th, if it was an early release, again, that was that whole idea about schools having an opportunity to enjoy the service of veterans coming in and sharing their experiences, as well as the children having an opportunity with their parents to visit and so forth and enjoy some of the very special programs. But in order to do that, then if that was an early release, then that would allow the December 21st date to be a holiday. On the other hand, if you were wanting to have the November 10th as a holiday, and there were many on the committee who did feel strongly that that should be the case, then that would then make December 21st an early release, because you would have to, in order to get the 180 days, you couldn't have it both ways. You'd have to have December the 21st as an early release. That would be the committee's preference in that regard. And so those would be the two choices that were being brought forward to the board for your consideration. I wanted to show you one other little bit of information before we get too much further. We were able to do just a quick, excuse me while I bring this up a little ways, I think, there we go. We did a little bit of a review on what other school districts did on that Veterans Day, and then that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, because the Wednesday before Thanksgiving also came to a discussion, because at one point in time we had the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as a early release as opposed to a holiday. Well, it was consistent that most of the other comparable school divisions did have that Wednesday as being a travel day, and so that, as you can see in both our examples, Wednesday is recommended as a travel day before Thanksgiving, and that's consistent with our comparable school districts. But the Veterans Day is a little bit different. It does kind of, and that's the contemporary calendar. That's the, as I understand it, that's the 15-16. That's what we were comparing to. So we don't have a lot of the 17-18 calendars out there to look at right now, and 16-17 are kind of off and on. But so it varies from school district to school district. But you see some consistency in terms of. But Veterans Day is it varies from school district to school district. Although I just have that information for you. So we took this information to the superintendent.
Before
Yes,
you
ma'am.
go further, I thought we were off on Veterans Day this past year.
We were.
Well, doesn't that say ES early release on Veterans Day for Stafford?
Right.
Is that us at the bottom of that list?
16-17.
Yeah, we were in this year, because
Oh,
I
we were in.
participated in my son's school
I thought we were going to
in a
be off.
veterans celebration.
You know, it's sort of, it's almost an odd evens. It's
It is.
crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so next year we're off, is that?
Yes, next year we are off. Absolutely.
It's hard to keep track.
And I apologize.
Good
But yeah,
heavens.
and I didn't mean to confuse you, but I did.
Oh, no,
just,
it's sad.
And that's one thing.
It's sad that, you know, I can't even tell. Of course, I don't, have a child in school right now, but, you know, it's almost like we're seesawing back and forth.
Well,
You're right.
if, I think we spoke about this, and Mr. McCosker and I are very strong supporters of Veterans Day being a day out of school, a closed school day. I think it's very important to honor our veterans that way. I do appreciate the idea and thought and the discussion that occurred during the committee, because our schools have really done a fantastic job over the years that we do have school, celebrating our veterans and ensuring, you know, if not all of our schools, I think the majority of our schools do something for Veterans Day that really does highlight the importance of veterans for our students, which is so important in this community.
Which we could do on a day other than Veterans Day,
The challenge is
if we chose to
they
do that.
often invite veterans and parents in, and because parents are off that day. But from, you know, I've done, you know, some sort of quick surveys or questions asking, you know, friends, neighbors, fellow parents at various schools, and veterans, you know, what is your preference? And their preference is always, I'd rather be able to stay with my child the entire day to celebrate Veterans Day with them.
So next year we're off, is that correct? Okay, that's what I must be thinking of.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, and I'm hearing from people in the community as well as staff that their preference would be to have Veterans Day as a school holiday.
And with this calendar, the 17-18 year, it's on a Friday, so it's more convenient, I suppose, rather than being that middle of the week day off. And then we have 2 years where it should be Saturday and Sunday, and we don't have to worry about it so much. Although I think the federal holiday it celebrates it. Yeah.
That was one thing at the forum. Many parents brought up that it's not consistent. And entertaining different calendars might allow it to be more consistent.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair? This past year, I looked at Loudoun County and Fairfax County's calendar, and they started post Labor Day, and the school year did go a little bit longer, but that accounted for banked snow days, and they were still able to get the 2 weeks off at Christmas. Did you guys look into that to see what the formula was for how they came up with that? Because I know 2 weeks off at Christmas time is really valuable to not just our kids, but very much so for our teachers. So did you guys look at that at all? Can you explain why we couldn't do something like that?
Actually, 2 weeks, it varies. Like right now, we have 13 days. 13 days, and if we're looking at 14 days, it would really mean adjusting as many as 1 day somewhere else in the calendar to get to the 14 total days. And it varies depending upon whether you want to take a day at the end of the year and having the day end on a later day and so forth. So it's amazing how 1 day can make a difference on whether you end on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and those kind of variations occur, and they just slide up and down on the calendar. And November is particularly tough, and every year we wrestle with that, and that's how we end up, for example, with looking at whether or not this year we really wrestled over November the 22nd as being a holiday. That was going to be, I know.
And Ms. Egan, I don't know if you, and I'm not familiar enough with Fairfax and Loudoun, but I know Prince William kind of, you look at it and they have the same scenario. But what I found out is Prince William they don't have midterm exams any longer, so they don't have those half days, those 3 or 4 half days. I don't know if Fairfax and Loudoun are the same or not. And Prince William has fewer half days than we have. And that's,
Prince William have early releases? I'd heard they don't have any early releases.
they may not have any. I know they have fewer.
I've heard that, yeah.
So if they don't have any, they definitely have fewer.
Not just the exam time, but through the whole year.
Right.
Which, if many of us, I think we all received I thought, very detailed email from an elementary school teacher about their need or her perceived need for those early releases that I thought was actually very compelling. I believe that the board received.
I'm not suggesting we cut them out, but I think that's one way other school districts have extra time, because you figure 2 hours a day for, or maybe, is it 2 or 3 or 4? Or what is it for an early release? 2.5. 2.5 times the yellows, that could amount to a couple days. So, it's all a matter of choices. It comes down to.
Madam Chair.
Just real quick, I want to make sure that I understood what you said. You indicated that a couple of the scenarios were pre-Labor Day scenarios, but the consensus of the committee was don't bother because the school board's not going to approve them anyway? So that's why they weren't brought forward?
No, we're the committee that was established by Dr. Benson. So the calendars that we approved, there were 3 post and 1 pre-Labor Day. They all went to Dr. Benson, and then he chose the ones
Okay.
to.
And I will tell you, and I'll give you my personal opinion on the committee's review of the pre-Labor Day, much more contentious than,
sure.
than the post-Labor Day.
Absolutely,
of the
yeah,
committee.
I get that.
Madam
Dr. Benson,
Chair,
you want to?
Please, yeah. One of the things that is attractive about a pre-Labor Day start is the potential of being able to finish the semester prior to the winter break, so that students can have a break, that teachers can have a break and not have to come back to a midterm exam. And that there may be some other way to look at that in investigating what's going on in other divisions. In order to do that, though, that's not just a week in front of Labor Day. There are more days that we've got to get in there in order to, and that's a pretty big paradigm shift for a county that has been doing post-Labor Day openings. So that may be something that we want to consider going forward, but we're going to need a lot of lead time and a lot of conversation with our community if that's something that we are interested in as a community. and there certainly are ways for us to make that happen, but there is great value, I think, in being able to say prior to the winter break that we're done with this semester, and there's not things that you're going to have to continue to do or be held accountable for when you return, because our students are really good, right? You all know that, right? There are things that they know they're going to be held accountable for when they come back from the winter break. They're going to be focused on those during the winter break.
Madam Chair, and Mr. Fitzgerald, I do have a question about, I guess, methodology. I know you have the committee, and I appreciate all the work that they put into it, and we have committee members as representatives of the community, and I know Ms. Wood and all the other members, I'm sure, solicited some opinions from friends, neighbors in the community, et cetera. But was there any effort to do any sort of electronic survey out to the community to get some feedback and get some information in and get the sense of the community from a broader sense? Because frankly, as you said, I attended the committee meeting, and it, number one, wasn't very well attended. I don't believe, I'm sorry, that was the open forum, and it wasn't very well attended by anybody except for members of the calendar committee. And discussion, in my opinion, took a long time to become valuable discussion. There's a lot of discussion about a lot of different things sort of related to calendars and calendaring, but really wasn't related to the 17-18 calendar to really get us into that discussion. I had to leave before it really got rolling, I believe. So, when we reach out to the community, this is such an important thing. I think all of us probably get as many questions about anything else as we do about the calendar, and especially as it starts becoming snow days and bank time and everything, that the community needs to be even more involved. We definitely need to have the committee, but we need to be able to reach out and have more communication with the community when we're developing these calendars. This year, was there any effort to do any sort of surveying?
Dr. Benson and I think in conjunction with the charter that has evolved with our projected proposed website, see some real opportunities along those lines. And I can go back several years where we did do some surveys. So in short answer, no. Long answers, we see some advantages to this in the future, where we can see some real potential. And actually online, immediate feedback type responses to some inquiries, so that we could have an online, like an open forum with a direct feed to the community as we are speaking, live input. And we think that could be very effective. There are questions surrounding surveys on this matter that we've had in the past, for which there are good and not so good kind of issues that come with it. But yes, I think that there's a tremendous benefit to be gained from that in the future. Absolutely.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Can I also ask how you currently track bank time? I know the ticker that you talked about, but how do you currently do it without that?
Well, we in essence sit down with a piece of paper and literally count the minutes that we've accumulated. You'd like to, if I don't.
You don't have to go in that much detail. I'm boring everybody up here. I apologize. Okay. Yes, we do have interest.
I'm always interested in how we can track that time. And in fact, this is an unrelated subject, but the Stafford High School time, we had told the students at the beginning of the year, when we added that 10 minutes, that when we knew what the inclement weather usage would be, we would relook at it to see if we had to go as long as we originally planned. And that's something I'd like you to get back with us on, to see if we have to continue that based on what we actually use, that 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Not for tonight, but I was asked a question about that.
We have it right here, as a matter of fact. This is done, it's been done paper pencil in the past. We've actually just basically put it back on an Excel file. I want to give credit to Michael Sidebotham, who basically translated this to a Google file, and then we've put it on paper. to an Excel file, which can be managed now. As you can see, it starts in September 8. As you go across the top, you'll see the elementary projected, accrued, and then middle, high school, and then you can see the Stafford High School right here as you go down. And then you can see the, for example, the elementary, that's an early release day, and that's the number of minutes they would have accrued for an early release day. There's another early release day. Here's a blue line. That's the Stafford High School when they started on November the 2nd with their additional 10 minutes. Then we go on down. These are literally days where they've accrued time at the rate of 350 for elementary, 350 for middle, and at the same time, the high school gets 353, and of course, whenever Stafford got the additional 10 minutes, theirs were accrued at 363. You can see as they continue on down, those are again the dates there where the yellow is the elementary. Now we're getting in. Those red dates are the days where we miss school, so they don't get any time accrued. And if we can just skip on down all the way, you can see that these dates and here would have been where they would have, right here, where for example, that's where the middle school would have had early dismissal days. That's what they would have accrued on those days. Again, those are days that we would have been out. So let's get to the bottom line. So right now, we're into May and so forth. These are projected days. All the way through, we get down to the bottom line. This gives you your total minutes that they would have accrued. This is the balance right now. The elementary school has a projected balance of 984 hours. The middle school will have a projected balance. If we continue on task and don't have any more days out or any more hours out, middle school will have a projected balance of 994. The high schools will have a projected balance of 1,003. And Stafford High School will have a balance of 1,002.
How many do they need?
990.
990. Then why are we making Stafford go with those extra 10 minutes? I thought we were going to relook at this, see
well,
what
you
was
can
required.
relook at it. If you, at some point in time, we could go backwards and see what the balance would be. But again, the high school, if we want to keep them comparable to the other high schools are getting 1,003.
So the other high schools are over too.
I don't think they'd complain too much about not having to get up 10 minutes early.
But if you do understand the question, if you could go back and give us an analysis and hopefully present it at the next meeting when we're approving the calendar, if no other time, of Stafford High School's time.
To put them back on time.
By looking at this, it looks like it's probably not really worth it, but I would really like to see some good detailed analysis to ensure that that is the truth, at least so we can provide the answers to the community, because those students really have been sacrificing an awful lot this year, with the school still under construction, the school being finished, and adding, on top of it, having an extra 10 minutes over all their
sure.
fellow students.
Be happy to give you a balance.
Are there any other questions for the committee? I'd like to thank you all. I did hear sort of a talk about pre-Labor Day start. I know we heard Dr. Benson's response. Is there any will of the committee that this be explored or not explored?
I like the idea that they're presenting, I apologize, of the Futures Committee. I think we should probably, well, in my opinion, we should charge the superintendent with developing that idea further and start that conversation with, because unless there's any real objection from the board to say no pre-Labor Day ever, but I think it's an important conversation to have. I know it's been had with the community in the past, in years past, but I think it's an important time to try and take a look and be able to explain to the community, if we do this, we have the challenge of how long before Labor Day, but these are the benefits of it, so that at least the community can have input and provide us with some feedback.
Dr. Benson, is that?
Well, Madam Chair, I suggest that perhaps we take a look at some other venues for collecting information. And maybe there might be a variety of topics in which we could engage the community in a teletown hall, which I think is what Mr. Fitzgerald was referring to, where we could use a call list and have literally hundreds of people participate and be able to poll and discuss and have people call in and ask questions. I've done that in a smaller division and managed to hold 800 people on the line while we're doing it. Well, because you can do it from home, and you advertise it. You say, we're going to have this call. It's going to go out at 7 o'clock on such and such a day. We're going to be discussing these topics. Here's the number to call in and ask your questions. We'll ask polling questions during the course of the meeting, and we'll get immediate responses, and we'll share those responses live. It's almost like having your own radio show, right? And you've got a captive audience. Folks are just on their phones at home participating. But that's, given our community and the level of participation we would like to have and how busy folks are, whether supporting their young people or with work and potentially, commuting, might be the way to have a much larger number of folks participate.
I think the other thing that I heard was exams. I know that's been brought up in general. I put that more on Dr. Benson's plate. I've heard from different principals things that we may need, that, wonder if we need to re-examine how exams are done in Stafford County. But that's on your plate for
I think it would be great if we had a kind of a short list of things that we really wanted to have a discussion with a larger community about, to take a look at using a format like a teletown hall format to do that.
All right. All right, moving on to 13.07 this time, actually. Thank you to Mrs. Wood for staying. Approve the award of a construction contract to AirTech Solutions in the amount of $448,000 using FY15 carryover funds for the repair of gymnasium roof at Gary Melcher's complex project. Any questions? I believe probably for Mr. Haran.
Just yes or no, any benefit approving this tonight, or can it wait?
We don't have any carryover funds.
Yes, no.
You're only allowed to say yes.
Obviously, if you'd like to, you can, but we have to wait until the FY15 carryover funds are approved before we can award the contract.
Sounds good to me. Sit down.
Don't go anywhere. Ms. Skippy.
How is that, this is for the Gary Melchers, right? The
Yes, ma'am.
gymnasium?
Yes, ma'am.
How is that gymnasium currently being used?
It's being used. However, we have roof leaks. And
I
Head
thought it
Start
was
and
just
Alt-Ed.
storage.
No, ma'am. We used it during the summer, in the last 3 or 4 summers, for furniture storage as part of the different renovations and what have you. But we always have emptied at least half of it out to allow for use by Head Start children and Alt-Ed children. So it's empty now.
By fixing the roof, we would dedicate it to be used as a gymnasium and not as a storage unit?
Well, that's certainly a flexibility that the division has at any time to use any of the school's areas for storage if needed. But Parks and Recs also uses that for summer and winter programs, for the programs.
I think
but
you know
the
where I'm
answer is
going
yes.
with this. I know it's an old facility. Is it worth putting $500,000 in to fix this roof, to utilize it for a storage room? I just want to make sure that that's not what we're doing.
No, ma'am, we're not.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions? Mr. Herron, you might as well just stay there since you can see the next two. 1308, approve the award of a professional service contract to Ascent Engineering Group in the amount of $139,380,000 using VSPA bonds for full building commissioning services in support of the Rebuild Moncure Elementary School project. Ms. Egan.
Just a really quick question. Are they going to be looking at the geothermal aspect in this services package?
Well, not this particular commissioning agent. They will, if in fact that is the HVAC system that is designed into the new school. So, yes.
So we're kind of we have to wait on the.
They are a
the
follow-up
architects for that.
outfit as the design team designs the project.
Right.
They'll also do a third-party review of the drawings, but their the bulk of their effort is done during the construction and the latter part of the construction process.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. 1309, approve the award of a construction change order to Branch and Associates in the amount of $150,000 using FY carryover funds for the replacement of the fire alarm system at Colonial Forge High School. Any?
We just did this at another high school.
Now, Mr. Hirons, this particular project, even though it's being funded with FY15 carryover funds, it would be beneficial for us to obtain approval tonight if the board so chooses, because in lieu of the funding, we can use change order funds in our contingency to fund it now, and then if the FY15 funds would come in to replenish that contingency. So if the board chooses or wishes to do that tonight, that certainly would benefit the division by moving forward with this.
Sure, go ahead.
Are those contingency funds really contingency funds?
They
or
are. They're
earmarked for something else?
No, ma'am. They're in the project for contingency. We believe they'll probably, some of them will be used later in the project. But right now, it would help us to move forward. But we certainly can wait. I'm not opposed, but I just wanted to.
So if we don't get that carryover money returned to us, is that going to put us in a pickle with having extra funds to do some
Not in a pickle, but we'll deplete the contingency funds sooner than what I had hoped.
How much is the contingency fund?
I think it was when we started the project, it was around $350,000 for Colonial Forge for that particular project. I don't, at the fingertips, I don't have the exact amount that's available to us, but we have used some of it.
Ms. Kidby, oh, did you?
I'm looking through this real quick. How much is the entire project?
For Colonial Forge?
Yeah.
I believe it was 6.5 or 6.8 million.
Okay.
Just shy of 7 million, I believe.
If we were to do this, I would think we would have to change the approval. The approval would be to use contingency funds, not to use carryover funds, because carryover funds are not available.
Right.
So are you asking us to approve this with
No,
contingency funds?
I was just bringing that to the board.
Is this a safety issue for the students and staff at Colonial
Not right now,
Forge?
no ma'am. It was something, as I briefed the board last meeting, when you were asked about the projects on the particular list for the, including the 8.3, that the system is becoming very difficult to support, and we definitely need to replace it by this summer, and that's our plan, to replace it by this summer. But we can maintain and wait for those funds.
Do you know when the estimated, if they're going to be returned to us, when that might be, Dr. Benson? Crystal ball?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hearn, would this work is anticipated to be done, though, this summer, or would it be something you would prefer to do while students are?
Well, as soon as some of it could be done before school is out without any interruption to the school, but the bulk of it will be done this summer.
Okay. All right. Is there a will of the board to move this or to wait?
Well, I have a concern. And that is, if we have issues with a fire alarm system, I don't see how that could not be a safety issue.
Well, it's operational right now, ma'am. As I told the board last meeting, it's operational, but we're having very difficulty maintaining parts as they fail, and so we've been working very closely with the fire marshal's office as to when to replace it, and so we know that if we try to keep the system going longer than this summer, that it will be even that much more difficult to maintain it operationally and not have times when it fails and we have to repair it, where there are times when parts of the system will be down. So I'm confident it's and very, very confident in the system right now. It's operational, but we do need to replace it, just like any other building critical system that starts to fail at a higher frequency.
Well, particularly a fire
Yes, ma'am.
alarm system.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what concerns me. If it's important enough to put on here and tell us that it needs to be done, and if we can't get the carryover funds, it's contingency funds. You know, my question is, why don't we just go ahead and approve it with contingency funds and have it done? Because you said you'd start it within the next few weeks.
We could. we could, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, and that there's
sounds
actually
like a
one.
safety issue to me.
Yeah, I would ask the board to strongly consider that. There is one other possibility, and that's to look at savings that we're going to have in this current fiscal year that could be used to pay for it. And we know that savings are there as part of what we've proposed in our budget moving forward. The boards could certainly make it up out of that if need be, but I would encourage the board to move this forward and change the source of funding so that we could get moving with it.
Madam Chair? Yes. Just real quick, I agree with Ms. Healy. I think that we ought to change the verbiage here and indicate that it's contingency, at least partially funded through contingency funds. The other thing that I wanted to state publicly is how much I appreciate the fact that Mr. Haran and his group look forward, not in anticipation, but in preparation, as they are considering all these various aspects of our schools and the safety of our students. They are always looking at these things in terms of, could this go out in the next year or two? Could we have a problem in the next year or two, whether it's a boiler or whether it's a fire alarm or whether it's a lock system or whatever it is? And so you're very proactive rather than reactive in terms of our maintenance of our schools. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. So I would like to move for approval and change the language, or move it to action.
All right, the motion on the table is to move 13.09 to action. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries unanimously to move to action. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval and change the funding source to be contingency funds for the from the Colonial Forge project.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. Hiram.
That's the funding, but with expected reimbursement, when the carry forward funds are, do we need to include that in the language?
Yeah, we could amend that to
Well, if
include that.
when we get the carryover funds, there may be another need. I'm
Other
sure there's a
projects,
lot of one-time projects that need those monies. I mean, the issue to me is with these contingency funds, you know, if it needs to be replenished. If it doesn't need to be replenished, then there's not a problem using it here. If we need more money in the Colonial Forge project, then we're going to have to come to the operating funds.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure we need to put it back just to hold it for contingency, because we're going to have to cover that contingency in any event.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Our next meeting, our next official board meeting that will meet in these chambers is on March 22nd. However, next Tuesday, we have our joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors on the 15th, and as of right now, we have a placeholder as well on their agenda for the 7 o'clock meeting to present our budget. We are. Well, there's a placeholder because I needed something to have approved before we went across, but there, discussion has been had, and I certainly thank Chairman Thomas for entertaining it before we had an approved budget. Other than that, we are adjourned.